Hi, and welcome to EBA Day TV. And today I'm going to be talking with Littlejohn from UBS. And you just came off the technology panel here at EBA Day, looking at payments and transaction banking. And you made an interesting point in your presentation about the difference between old world and new world banking, where in the old world with IT, banks looked very much inward and thought, what is it? What's in it for us, and now they're looking a bit outward and looking at the customer. How did that change happen, and how are banks sort of coping with that right now?
Yeah, I think I was really pointing to a couple of things. In what I call the old world, we thought that we could get cost savings and risk control, and so we invested in big technology. We centralized operations, and we did things that were in our interests and kind of kidded ourselves that it was also in the interest of our clients. And that we could give that back in terms of cost savings, and we achieved great things. One of the points about the old world that we were able to achieve is that we were able to control our risks pretty well. Every upside has a downside. The volumes that we can now handle would be impossible to handle on a manual basis for most banks these days, in that they've centralized a lot. And if our systems were to fail, we would spend a lot of time, more time getting the systems working again than we would try to do it manually in most cases. The transition to the new world really came about when our clients started to realize that and expect more, and realize they could do more and expect more, and some of our more nimble technology providers came up with ideas to do this, although they weren't banks. And so between the explosion in handheld devices and the nimble activities of non-banks, the transition is in effect happening. And this allows, on the one hand, it challenges our old world view of how do we make things better, or let's say faster and cheaper, but not necessarily better, at least not from a client's point of view, and to more of the focus on better. How do we make things better from a client's point of view, whether it's more convenient, cheaper, faster? These are the things that we focus on now.
You mentioned a lot of the big sort of payments buzzwords going on right at the moment, social media, mobile banking. Are banks conservative? Are banks really just conservative in their movement towards offering more of these services, or is it the technology, the internal technology, that's holding them back?
Both, and the conservative character of banks really derives from the background in banks, although I would challenge that notion. I think in universal banks, where you have investment banking and commercial banking together, you have parts of the bank that's not so conservative and parts that are, and some that are more nimble and some that are less nimble. I think the past has shown, though, that on the whole, banks are relatively slow. And the second point that derives from is our regulatory requirements. We have to do things in a certain way. We have to make a lot of different people happy, not only clients and shareholders, but also our regulators. And the regulators, in most cases, look at banks as an extension of their central bank, and they take it very seriously. And so the kinds of headlines that we try to avoid as banks are: your system is down, you took the wrong risk, you introduced a huge, let's call it money laundering risk. These are the things that we try to avoid. And I think that characterizes the way we approach technology as well.
You made a comment that UBS, like most other banks, has made moves to reduce their internal IT spend and reduce internal R&D, yet also there's a lot of pressure on banks to be innovative with technology. How do banks sort of balance the two by having a small IT internal infrastructure and be quick and fast and innovative with IT?
Yeah, I think there is, and as I mentioned in the panel, I think banks need to look to partners more than they have in the past, perhaps, and find ways to leverage their ability to get things quick to market, and at the same time provide to those partners a secure and technology, or let's say a back-end adept way of doing these transactions that will in the end be accepted by regulators as the right way to do things. So I think you can balance the time to market with risk control and economies of scale.
So basically, sort of not being afraid to partner with firms that might not come from the financial services industry.
Yeah, absolutely not. And in this capacity, I don't necessarily answer that as UBS. I answer that more as a private citizen.
Yeah.
Because inside our bank is more as a client. Yeah. I think inside of every bank there are different views on how to do that, and my own personal view is that this can be done through more partnering.
Thank you very much.
been a pleasure. Thanks.